I went decades hearing about people speak about the voice inside of their head and not really being able to identify with that or understand that. Let's say that you light a candle in your house, you go about your day, you forget that you've lit the candle, you leave the house, you come back, and your house is burned down. For many people, the voice inside their head would say, "Oh my God, you are such an idiot. How could you forget to blow that candle out?" Which is a very burdensome way to live. For me, the experience was always different. I wouldn't hear, "You are such an idiot." For me, the experience was much nicer. I would hear, "I am such an idiot." Jokes aside, because my thoughts existed in the first person, I, as opposed to you, I would hear things like, the candle situation, my voice inside my head would say, "I'm such an idiot," as opposed to "you are such an idiot." And additionally, because albeit somebody who's very hard on themselves, I do like to think of myself as somebody who's emotionally stable, mentally stable, has it together. I thought that I was just having thoughts. I didn't have a voice inside my head. I just had thoughts. And I thought, there's no voice inside my head. Emmie, you played yourself. If you have thoughts, if you think, then you indeed have a voice inside your head. Hello, I am Healthy Emmie. If you've never seen my face before, hey, I'm Healthy Emmie, and welcome to today's Tater Talk. Name of these videos is still in progress, so please comment, what should I call these? In these videos, if you're new here, what I do is I cook my sweet potatoes in a different type of way. Every Tater Talk, I'm cooking them in a different way. I'm going to tell you how I cook them, I'm going to rate them, and we are going to eat together while I talk about a certain lifestyle topic. If what I talk about today really resonates with you, then you are a great candidate to be a personal client of mine in the Slim on Starch program, because in the Slim on Starch program, which yes, is a program to get you healthier, it's not just about the food. Mindset is a huge component of the Slim on Starch program. It's why all of my clients have a mindset coach and we work on the mindset side of things, because we're talking about things like we're going to talk about today. Today's Tater Talk, we are checking off the voice inside my head from the list. I want you to pause the screen now, look at all of the upcoming Tater Talks, and tell me which one would you like next. Leave a comment because you help shape the content that comes next on this channel. Let's talk about how I cook these bad boys. I went for the Okinawans today. I went to my local Asian market and I purchased the beige on the outside, purple on the inside Okinawan sweet potatoes. Last night, I put these into the Instant Pot and I steamed them for 10 minutes. Once they were done, I released the steam, put them in a bowl, and then I put them into the fridge overnight. I'm going to start by washing my potatoes. So first I'm going to put them in the strainer, rinse some water over them, and I'm going to use this brush to clean them off. Now I'm just going to let these sit and soak in water for about 5 to 10 minutes. All right, so it's been 5 minutes. I'm going to take these guys out. This is a cleanser that I got on Amazon, and it is absolutely frightening. The amount of gunk in just this film that comes off of all of your produce. So I'll link this in the down bar. I highly recommend it. Splash of powder in the bottom, and then you mix it with water. And I'll let these sit for about 10 minutes. All right, it has been about 10 minutes. I'm gonna rinse these one more time and then put them into the steamer. I'm gonna put some water into the bottom of the Instant Pot. Just about an inch or so of water. And then this is linked on my Amazon storefront, so this is linked in the down bar. I put the potatoes in here and then put this into the Instant Pot, like that. I'm gonna steam it. Let's do 9 minutes. Sometimes I do 10, I'm gonna do 9. The Instant Pot just went off, so I'm going to release the steam. Just wanna make sure that a knife pokes through them easily. Perfect, so I'm gonna take them out and put them in the fridge. The potatoes have just come out of the Instant Pot, so I have them in a bowl here, and I'm going to put these into the fridge to sit overnight. So I have them sitting directly into the fridge. I'm not going to cover them or anything. I'm just going to shut the door and see them tomorrow. I took them out a couple of hours ago because I kind of like them to be room temperature. I didn't want to reheat them, but I don't like cold food. I don't like the idea of popsicles, and I like these guys room temperature. They're nice and sweet the next day. And I already know that this is a different taste experience from what I've done for the last two Tater Talks, which the potatoes, because more moisture is taken out in the baking process, they tend to be sweeter, more caramelized, more sugary, more crystally. But I was desiring a more dense experience, and this method of cooking makes them more dense, less sweet. So they are less sweet than when you bake them, because when you bake them, you remove more water, leaving the sugar to be more concentrated. The sweetness is more concentrated. But I'm not just big on taste. I'm a big texture girly, really into texture of food. One might say that I hold higher the regard of the texture over the taste. And so I decided that I wanted a dense experience. I meditated before this video for 1 minute, as always. So I've done my meditation for this meal. Let's break her open. Oh no, I dropped some. So as you can see, the color is a little bit lighter. If the color is lighter, it means it's not as sweet and there's more water still intact. These are going to be delicious. I just know it. Because today I'm really desiring texture, whereas sometimes I want it baked, sometimes I want it to be a little bit more dense. Now I will say I cheated. I had one of these last night, and it appears as though putting them in the fridge uncovered does dry them out a little bit, but I kind of like that. So let's try. That's exactly what I wanted. Lately, I've been liking the drier texture with the cinnamon. It just reminds me so much of coffee cake. So that is really yummy. I need my tea. Chamomile tea, as always. I don't do caffeine. And I sleep like a baby every night because I don't do caffeine. So my alarm is set for 6 every single day. Even on the weekends, even when I have zero obligations, I wake up at 6 every single day. Always. And because of that, I naturally wake up. It's unbelievable. I naturally wake up in the 5:50s every day. It's insane. Today I woke up at 5:59. I'm like, pre-alarm, does Apple radiate some things to make me awaken? All right, after this bite, I'm gonna start talking about the voice inside our head. Just a gal in her office, sitting cross-legged, eating sweet potatoes, talking about the voice inside her head. What do you do on Saturday mornings? A book that changed my life is Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. This is one that I very often recommend to clients that I find ruminating and having some catastrophizing thinking about the future, getting lost in the future, having trouble staying present. What I'm going to be talking about today with the voice inside our head is very much based on the teachings of Eckhart Tolle, who my mom and I and my future sister-in-law had the absolute pleasure of seeing in person, which is a really special experience. Healthy Mummy cried. It was so adorable. So we love Eckhart. The first thing that you must accept is that you have a voice inside your head. Listen, as I talked about at the beginning of this video, I thought that I didn't have a voice inside my head because that seemed, I'm just going to say this because this is the way that I used to think. It seemed mentally unstable to think that there was a voice inside my head. I would think, there's nothing wrong with me. There's no voice inside my head. I just have thoughts. What Eckhart has taught me is A, to swallow my pride, and B, that if you have thoughts, that is the voice inside your head. Your thoughts are the voice inside your head. So the first thing you have to accept is there is a voice inside your head. And spoiler alert, that voice is not you. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. So thinking about the thoughts that you have, think back to that candle. In that scenario, do you think to yourself, oh my God, I'm such an idiot? Or do you think, you are such an idiot? So does your voice speak to you in first person, or does it speak to you in second person? Just something to be aware of. Mine personally is first person. I don't hear, you're such an idiot with the candle situation. I think, oh my God, I am such an idiot. So mine's in first person. What is yours? The second principle to understand and to practice is to detach from that voice inside your head. As Eckhart talks about, you are not the voice, you are the observer of the voice. So those thoughts that you have, those are not you. What your job is to detach yourself from those thoughts and to watch those thoughts float by like clouds. We have many thoughts during the day, and we get to observe them, watch them, detach from them, and decide which ones we want to latch onto and which ones we want to let float by. Sometimes I'll say to my clients, which thoughts do you want to just drag into the delete bin? Just drag them into the trash bin. You don't have to latch on to every single thought you have, identify with it, and take it as fact or truth, because our thoughts are not facts. Our thoughts are not true. Just because we have a thought does not mean that it's factual or that it's truthful. This really is the core of Eckhart's teachings, that we are not our thoughts, we're the observer of our thoughts, and this is where our spiritual awakening starts to happen. Don't let the term spiritual awakening freak you out. That certainly would have freaked me out in years past. I would have thought, oh my goodness, listen, I used to be a math teacher. I am very practical, I am very organized, to-do lists, and when I would hear something like spiritual awakening, I'd think, do you want me to go braid flowers in my hair and dance around the meadows? I don't get that. I don't get spiritual awakening. But now I do understand that a spiritual awakening is just beginning your journey to inner peace and being completely in control of your mind and accepting of the reality in front of you, the thoughts that you're having, and not letting external circumstances, your reality, or your thoughts absolutely take over your life experience. That's what a spiritual awakening is. And your ability to detach from your thoughts, be the observer of the voice inside your head, and not latch onto it and get all wrapped up in it and let it completely take over your life, that is spiritual awakening. There's that famous quote, I think, therefore I am, which Eckhart says is just the complete opposite of what his truth is, that our essence and our being and who we are is not what we think. It's a really interesting way to think about our existence on Earth, that all of our thoughts, that's not who we are. Our true being and who we are is the person that observes the thoughts that we are having. Here are all of our thoughts. That's not us. We are here. We are watching the thoughts. The incessant mental chatter that most people deal with, if you latch on to all of that and you let it take you for a ride, that is an exhausting way to live. And to reach a state of inner peace, presence, and a deep meaning from life, you have to be able to ground yourself, practice stillness, practice awareness, and let the thoughts exist somewhere else. Something else Eckhart talks about is how overthinking is a disease. The brain is not meant to think 24/7. The brain is an instrument. We are meant to use the brain to have thoughts when we need them, and then to put the brain down. Let me ask you, do you ever stop thinking? Or are you constantly having this mental chatter that is incessant, that you completely identify with, that you let take over your life? Meditation is a break from thinking. So instead of having thought, what meditation does is it creates space between those thoughts. I used to hear people say, meditation is creating space. Like, what does that mean? Now I understand that the brain is not meant to have thought after thought after thought after thought after thought after thought. The brain is supposed to have thought, space, thought, space. And meditation is creating space between those thoughts. It would be like if you went to a performance or a talent show and people do a round of applause between each act. Round of applause, stop. The next act goes. Round of applause, stop. The next act goes. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? What if you went to a talent show and you just clapped the entire time? You wouldn't stop clapping. People would be like, no, that is not how the round of applause goes. You do the round of applause, we all stop, then we can do another one a little bit later. That's the way that the brain should be. And you are not the round of applause, you're just doing the round of applause. We're on to potato number 2. You want to open these together? It's fun, right? It's like scratching a lottery ticket. This one's a little bit deeper. I like this method though. Oh, I didn't rate it. I think I would give this an 8. I feel solid. That feels solid to me. This feels like a reliable method of cooking. Like, I feel like when you cook it this way, it's always going to turn out pretty much the same. Whereas when you put them in the oven, you never know. I actually really like this method. Again, not as sweet as when you bake it because there's more water intact, but it's denser, it's more filling. And you know what's interesting? It tastes different today than it tasted last night. They were really great last night. They were a little bit denser last night. They've dried out a little bit being in the fridge because of the air in the fridge is going to remove some of the water, dry it out a little bit, but very good. So your job is to be the observer of your thoughts. Our thoughts are like clouds passing in the sky. So they come, they go, they change, they shift, but we remain constant and we are steady. We are a higher level of consciousness. Once we accept that we are the observer here, it allows us to detach from the self-limiting narratives that we have in our minds. So many people, my clients, for example, will say to me, I just have this narrative that I'm never going to succeed and I'm never going to be good enough and I'm never going to figure this out. And it's so frustrating because it follows me with every endeavor I do, especially with weight loss. When we can go through this transformation of being the observer of that thought, as opposed to that thought completely encapsulating us and taking over us and being our very existence, things change. Your existence is not that self-limiting belief. Your higher level of consciousness is. Something else I'll say to my clients is, the first thought is not your responsibility, the second thought is. So the first thought is, I'm going to be a failure, I'm never going to succeed at this. That's not your responsibility. Those are the clouds, right? What you get to do is watch those clouds, watch them change and shift and let them pass by, but you stay present and grounded and as the observer. These taste sweeter when they're not super hot. Right when they come out of the Instant Pot, they still taste like a boiled potato. They're not as sweet. When you let them sit for a little bit, I cooked these last night, I put them in the fridge for a couple hours, and then I tested one to make sure that they weren't poison, and they were really good. But you gotta let them cool down. And you might think, well, I don't want to have those thoughts at all. How do I create a world where my clouds are all pink and they have rainbows in them? When you figure that out, let me know. Because that's not your job. If you are able to start by recognizing that there is a distance between you and your thoughts, that is a tremendous transformation. That is a major first step. If you can do that, you are reaching a level of spiritual awakening that 99% of people never will. So if you take nothing from this video, at the very least recognize that there is a distance between you and your thoughts and those self-limiting narratives and beliefs. If you can at least create distance between them, then they won't suffocate you. If you are what you eat, I am potato. What are you? I am not my thoughts, but I am potato. The next thing that you absolutely must recognize is that your thoughts are not fact. Just because you have a thought does not mean that it's true. And you're going to think that it's true. But you have to do some fact checking here. And you have to see if you have evidence to support that thought as being truthful, or if that thought really doesn't have any evidence to support that it's factual. You might even have evidence against it being factual. So let's take an example here. Let's say that you have a thought. Let's picture it like a cloud. The thought passes by of, I'm a failure, or you're a failure, depending on how your voice operates inside of your head. Let's look for evidence that that's true. And then let's look for evidence for all of the reasons why that might not be true. What evidence do you have to prove that you're a success? What evidence from your past do you have that you can be successful? Oh, okay. So we have a lot of evidence that you actually are a success and that that thought may not be true. It's not that it may be a lie. It may just not be entirely true, but interesting. So these thoughts that I'm having are a lot more complicated than meets the eye. If you start to have this dialogue with yourself of, Let's look at that thought. Is that true? Do I have evidence to support it? Do I have evidence against it? You might think, oh my gosh, well, this makes things even more complicated. Are the thoughts true? Or are the thoughts not true? If you're even having that conversation, you're already in a higher state of consciousness. So if you're having thoughts and thinking, well, I have some facts to support it, but I have some facts to not support it, I'm a mess. Actually, what you're doing is practicing what an awakened person would do, which is to look at those thoughts and say, wait a minute, what's going on here? As opposed to immediately identifying with the thoughts and checking them off as true. Every single day feels like my birthday because these potatoes are just so delicious. If you think that every thought that you have is factual, you are giving your mind way too much credit. Recognizing that your thoughts are not truthful is absolutely critical to this next step in your spiritual awakening. Not inherently truthful. Some are going to be truthful, some are not, some are fact, some are not. But recognizing just that some are fact and some are not, and not immediately assuming that the thought that you had is factual is huge. The next thing that I want you to do is view these thoughts without any judgment. So if the thought is self-limiting, or if the thought is an embarrassing thought, or if it's an impure thought, if you have a thought that you wouldn't say aloud to somebody else, don't judge yourself for that. Your brain is doing its thing. Your job is not to control the thoughts that your brain produces. Your job at this time is to distance yourself from those thoughts. We'll work on, and I can make a different Tater Talk about this. I said that I wouldn't name these Tater Talks, but it just keeps coming out. In a future video, I can talk about how we can produce more positive thoughts and how we can bring more clouds into your world that are the pink ones, that have the butterflies and the rainbows. But the ones that come in that are the dark, stormy clouds, view those without judgment. No big deal. Your brain is doing its thing, but it's not a big deal because you don't immediately identify with each one of those clouds. Let's say there's a clothing store that you love. The clothing store, metaphorically speaking, is your brain. Just because you like that clothing store does not mean that you are going to like every single piece that clothing store has. Just like your brain is going to have a bunch of thoughts, but just because it's your brain having the thought doesn't mean that every single one is a part of your identity. Your identity is not your thoughts. Not only is our ability to do this key to inner peace, increased mental stability, increased enjoyment in life, but also it's a great way to expand our mind to be open to different points of view, to be more open-minded about the world, to be more humble, to challenge our assumptions, to look at things differently. It expands our critical thinking ability and the way that we see the world, and it opens us up to viewing the world in a more fulfilling and enjoyable and in a gratifying sense. By the way, if you are liking this conversation, if this is speaking to you, if this is a conversation that you would like to have with me directly, I highly encourage you to sign up for the SOS program. Click the link in the down bar, and let's get your body in check physically, but we need to get your mind in check too. Negative thinking is something that plagues the majority. I would say many people that walk this earth are plagued by negative thinking. What we do here, because it can be frustrating, right? If we go back to this cloud analogy, if every single cloud is a storm cloud, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, Emmie, I've learned that I am not my thoughts and the clouds are going to pass, but every single one is a storm cloud. What do I do in this scenario? Well, let's say that every single thought is a storm cloud and it's stormy outside. What if you could come indoors to a place that's warm, the heater's on, the air smells, there's candles, it smells good, there's nourishing food. You could step into that place and come back to center, then the fact that it's raining outside won't be as big of a deal. But if you're standing outside in the rain and it's storming, that's not going to be a pleasant experience. That would be if you are thinking about those thoughts, metacognition, yes. If you're thinking about them, if you're standing outside, if you're letting it rain on you all the time, and you're just sitting in these horrible thoughts, that's going to be tough. But like I said, what if we come inside and we get out of the rain? How do we do this? As Eckhart Tolle suggests, this is when we practice meditation. This is when we come back, focus on our breathing, focus on the sensations in the body, to remind yourself that you are just a physical being and you are a soul having human experience, and thoughts, those exist out there. But come back to present, remind yourself of your physical being, and that your thoughts are not something that you get lost in. Breathe in, hold your breath, let it out slowly, stay present in this moment. Am I safe right now in this moment? Am I getting lost in the future? Am I worrying about things that haven't happened yet? You're outside in your rain boots, your raincoat, and your umbrella, and you're sulking about the rain, and it's sunny out that day. We cannot give those thoughts the power to absolutely dominate and take over our day. And how we do that is by doing what I just said, which is to come back to center, to breathe, to get grounded, to detach yourself from those thoughts and remind yourself that everything is okay right now in this moment. Now, something funny happens when I see people do this. They feel okay for a moment, and then they start to get anxious because they're not anxious. You start to think, oh my goodness, everything's okay. I see this happen with my clients all the time. They're losing weight, they're doing beautifully, and now they're worked up because it's actually working. Isn't that funny how our brain gotta love that brain, huh? So then we might say, well, yeah, everything is okay right now, but it might not be in the future. Are you a catastrophizer? The first time I ever heard the word catastrophize, I never felt more seen in my life as somebody who tends to project the worst case scenario and thus do absolutely everything in the present moment to prevent worst case scenario from happening. And then I lose my entire life because all I'm doing is planning for the worst case scenario. Horrible way to live. Don't recommend it. And therefore, I don't do that anymore. But do you find yourself projecting that the worst case scenario is going to happen and you lose the present moment completely because your mind is so wrapped up in this future doomsday that's going to happen? If we ground ourselves in the now, in the present moment, then we can escape that unnecessary suffering. When you worry, you only suffer twice. So when you see your mind, when you see yourself on a sunny day, getting those rain boots on, going out into the sun and sitting and sulking because the sun's going to go away and the rain is going to come at some point, well, now you've missed out on your sunny day. You could be at peace today, but you're getting so wrapped up in your thoughts, identifying with them, believing them to be true, that you're robbing yourself of the present moment, and you're robbing yourself of the ability to be a critical thinker, a problem solver, and somebody who is emotionally resilient. Should we wrap it up on this potato? I could talk about this forever. If you haven't already, pause the screen now and tell me which Tater Talk should I talk about next. And if you have additional recommendations, remember that you are a large part of shaping what the future content you see on this channel is. So leave a comment and let me know. If hearing this today really spoke to you, thank you for being open to it. And congratulations on improving your spiritual path and your awakening today. If you feel that you need additional help in this area, as well as improving your physical health, then please send in an application to work with me in the Slim on Starch program. Make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already so you can see more of me, Healthy Emmie, and we can hang out together more virtually. If you made it to this point of the video, comment sunny skies, because although there are clouds, there is a sun behind it. And we are going to choose to identify with the sun, let the clouds pass by, and be present and grounded and centered. I love you, honeys, and I'll see you in my next video.